The smell hit him like a wall-rot chemical's death. Marcus Kane killed the engine boots crunching on broken glass and something worse. Then he heard it. A sound that shouldn't exist in a landfill at 3 a.m. Weak, ragged, human. Please. The voice came from under a pile of trash bags, barely a whisper. He moved closer, flashlight cutting through the dark. What he saw stopped his heart. An old woman, eyes open, covered in filth, still breathing. "They left me here," she whispered, "to die." If this story shakes you, subscribe and stay with me until the end. Comment what city you are watching from. I want to see how far this truth travels. Marcus stood there, flashlight beams shaking in his hand, and for 3 full seconds, he didn't move. Couldn't move. His brain was trying to process what his eyes were telling him, that this wasn't a mannequin, wasn't some Halloween prank, wasn't anything except an actual living human being buried under garbage at the Jefferson County landfill. "Ma'am," his voice came out rough. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Her eyes found his, blue eyes, clear despite everything. And in them he saw something that made his stomach drop, recognition. Not of him, but of what was happening. She knew she'd been left here. She knew she was dying. "They took me." Each word cost her. "In the car. I knew them." "Don't talk." Marcus was already on his phone, hands shaking so bad he nearly dropped it. "Don't try to talk. I'm calling." "No." Her hand shot out, grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Listen, please, they think I'm already dead." The 911 dispatcher answered. "911, what's your emergency?" "I'm at the Jefferson County landfill east entrance. I found..." Marcus looked down at the woman at the gray hair matted with something dark at the nightgown torn and stained. "I found someone, an elderly woman. She's alive, but Jesus Christ, she's been dumped here. She needs an ambulance now." "Sir, can you confirm the location?" "East entrance past the main gates about 200 yards in. I'm on a motorcycle, you'll see it. Just send everyone. Now." He hung up before the dispatcher could ask more questions. Knelt down in the garbage, ignoring the smell, the cold, the wrongness of everything. "What's your name?" "Evelyn." She coughed and blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Evelyn Brooks." "Evelyn, I'm Marcus. The ambulance is coming. You're going to be okay." "You don't understand." Her grip tightened. "They'll come back to make sure." "Make sure of what?" "That I'm dead." Those words hung in the freezing air between them. Marcus had seen a lot of ugly things in his 43 years. Done some ugly things too back when he wore different colors and ran with a different crowd. But this was something else. This wasn't gang violence or drug deals gone wrong. This was cold, calculated, evil in a suit and tie. "Who did this to you?" "My nephew." The words came out like broken glass. "Richard, and someone else. A woman. I didn't see her face." Marcus heard sirens in the distance. Thank God. But Evelyn's words kept echoing. "They'll come back to make sure." He looked around the landfill at the mountains of trash, the darkness beyond his flashlight beam. Anyone could be out there, watching, waiting. "Why would your nephew, the will?" Evelyn coughed again harder. "I changed it. Last week, he found out." The sirens were getting closer. Marcus could see lights now red and blue cutting through the dark. But something else caught his attention. Headlights coming from the access road. Moving slow, too slow, like someone's searching. "Evelyn, who else knows you're here?" "I don't..." She tried to sit up, failed. "I don't know. I woke up in the trunk, heard them talking. Richard said dump me deep where the morning crew wouldn't find me till Monday." It was Friday night. She would have been here for 2 days. The ambulance pulled up, followed by 2 police cruisers. Paramedics jumped out, rushed over. Marcus stepped back, let them work, watched as they checked vitals, started an IV, radioed for backup. One of them, a young guy with onked eyes, looked up at Marcus. "How long has she been here?" "I don't know. I just found her 15 minutes ago." "She's hypothermic, dehydrated. Looks like she's been here at least 12 hours, maybe more." The paramedic's jaw tightened. This wasn't an accident. "No." Marcus looked at the police officers approaching. It wasn't. The older cop badge reading Sergeant Morrison pulled out a notebook. "You the one who called it in, ma'am?" "Yeah, Marcus Kane." He gestured to his bike. I was cutting through, heard her calling for help. Cutting through a landfill at 3 in the morning? Morrison's eyes narrowed. That's a hell of a shortcut. Here it came. The assumptions, the suspicions. Marcus had been dealing with them his whole life, first because of how he looked, then because of the leather he wore, then because of the mistakes he'd made. He was used to it, tired of it, but right now, he didn't care about any of that. I couldn't sleep. Went for a ride, I do that sometimes. He met Morrison's stare. And before you ask, no, I didn't put her there. Check the cameras at the gate if you want. I came in alone, found her, called you. That's it. Morrison studied him for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we'll need a full statement, but that can wait. Right now, he turned to Evelyn as the paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher. Ma'am, can you tell me what happened? Evelyn's eyes found Marcus first, like she was checking if he was still there. Then she looked at Morrison. My nephew, Richard Brooks, he and a woman, they took me from my house, put me in a trunk, drove me here, left me to die. Morrison's pen stopped moving. Your nephew did this? Yes, no hesitation, no doubt. He found out I changed my will, cut him out. This was punishment. Jesus Christ. The younger cop, barely looked old enough to shave, turned away, like he needed a second to process it. We need to get her to County General, the paramedic said. She needs a trauma team. Go, so. Morrison waved them off. We'll meet you there. And ma'am, he leaned closer to Evelyn. We're going to find your nephew. I promise you that. But Evelyn was looking at Marcus again. Don't leave me, please. When they find out I'm alive, I'll be right behind the ambulance, Marcus said, and meant it, even though every instinct told him to get on his bike and ride away from this mess. Even though getting involved in other people's problems had never ended well for him. Even though he had 100 reasons to walk away. But he'd already walked away from too much in his life. The ambulance doors closed, lights spinning, siren wailing. It pulled away into the night. Marcus turned to Morrison. So you need anything else from me right now? Address and phone number, and stick around. We're going to have a lot of questions. Marcus gave him the information, watched as Morrison's eyebrows rose slightly at the address. Yeah, he lived in a studio apartment above a laundromat. Not exactly the kind of place that inspired confidence. But it was paid for, and it was his, and right now, that was enough. That's in the East End, right? Morrison asked. Yeah. You know the Brooks family? Never heard of them before tonight. Morrison exchanged a look with his partner. Richard Brooks lives in Riverside, hedge fund manager. Big house, nice car on the board at the country club. His aunt, that's Evelyn. She lives in a care facility on Maple Street, Sunrise Manor. She wasn't at a care facility tonight, Marcus said flatly. No. Morrison closed his notebook. She wasn't, which raises the question, how did he get her out without anyone noticing? Maybe someone helped him. Maybe? Morrison looked back at the spot where they'd found Evelyn at the pile of garbage bags in the small crater her body had made. Or maybe no one was watching. You'd be surprised how easy it is for elderly people to just disappear, especially when family's involved. Something in Morrison's voice suggested this wasn't his first case like this. And that possibility that this happened regularly enough for a cop to sound resigned about it made Marcus's hands curl into fists. You'll let me know what you find, Marcus asked. This an official police investigation, not a neighborhood watch situation. But Morrison studied him again. If you think of anything else, call me. Here's my card. Marcus took it. Detective Sergeant James Morrison, Violent Crimes Unit. The fact that they were calling in violent crimes told him everything he needed to know about how seriously they were taking this. I'm going to the hospital, Marcus said. She's not your family. She asked me to stay with her. Morrison considered that. All right, but don't get in the way. And if this Richard Brooks shows up, you call me immediately. Don't try to be a hero. Marcus almost laughed at that. Hero. That's not what people called guys like him. But he just nodded, climbed on his bike, and followed the ambulance's lights toward County General. The emergency room was chaos. Friday night always was drunks, fights, overdoses, the usual parade of human suffering. Marcus stood in the corner leather jacket drawing stares and waited. A nurse finally came out, saw him, frowned. You with the elderly woman they brought in from the landfill. Yeah, she's stable, barely. Hypothermia, severe dehydration, multiple contusions, possible internal bleeding. We're running tests now. The nurse's expression softened slightly. You saved her life another hour and she would have died out there. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. Didn't feel like a hero. Felt like someone who'd almost driven past. Almost kept going. Almost left her there to die alone. Can I see her family only right now? Are you bumming? I'm not family. Then I'm sorry, but he's with me. A new voice. Marcus turned to see an elderly man in an expensive suit, silver hair, perfectly styled despite the late hour. I'm Thomas Brooks, Evelyn's brother. And if Marcus here is the one who found my sister, then he's exactly who I want to talk to. The nurse hesitated, then nodded. Room 7, but she's sedated. She won't be able to talk. Thomas led Marcus down the hallway, his face a careful mask of control. But his hands shook when he pushed open the door to room 7. And when he saw Evelyn cleaned up now, but still pale as death tubes and wires everywhere, his mask cracked. Oh, Evie. His voice broke. What did he do to you? Marcus stayed by the door, giving Thomas space. Watched as the old man took his sister's hand, sat down heavily in the plastic chair. The police called me, told me what happened, told me Richard. He couldn't finish the sentence. I'm sorry, Marcus said, because what else was there? Don't be sorry. Thomas looked up, and his eyes were hard now, angry. Be ready, because when word gets out that Evelyn's alive, Richard's going to panic. And panicked people do desperate things. You think he'll try again? I know my nephew. He's weak, entitled. Always wanted Evelyn's money but never wanted to work for anything himself. Thomas stood paced to the window. When she told me she was cutting him out of her will, I warned her. Told her Richard wouldn't take it well. But I never thought, he trailed off. The police said there was a woman with him. Any idea who? Thomas turned sharply. What woman? Evelyn said she heard 2 voices, Richard and a woman. She didn't see her face. Jesus. Thomas pulled out his phone, started scrolling. His girlfriend is Amanda Chen, works in his firm, but I can't believe He showed Marcus a photo. Young woman, maybe 30, beautiful, in a cold sort of way. Could it be her? I don't know. Evelyn couldn't identify her. The police need to know about this. They will. Morrison's good. He'll figure it out. Thomas looked at Marcus for a long moment. The nurse said you're not family, so why are you here? Good question. Marcus looked at Evelyn at the steady rise and fall of her chest at the monitors beeping softly. She asked me to stay. Said they might come back to make sure she's dead. And you believed her? Yeah, I did. Why? Because Marcus had seen that kind of fear before. In his mother's eyes when his father came home drunk and angry. In his little sister's face before she overdosed. In the mirror back when he was running from everything and everyone. He knew what real terror looked like. And Evelyn Brooks had it. Because she's right, Marcus said simply. If Richard thinks she can identify him, testify against him, put him in prison, he's going to try to finish what he started. Thomas nodded slowly. Then we need protection. Police protection. Already requested it, Morrison said from the doorway. He had entered quietly, cop instincts, making him move like a ghost. We've got a unit outside her room and we're putting out an APB for Richard Brooks. But Mr. Brooks, he looked at Thomas. I need to ask you some questions about your nephew, about the family dynamics, about who benefits if your sister dies. Thomas's face went pale. You think this is about the will? Evelyn said she changed it recently, cut Richard out. That's motive. And from what I'm learning about Richard's finances, he needed that inheritance more than anyone knew. What do you mean? Morrison pulled out his own phone, showed them a screen. Richard Brooks has been embezzling from his clients for the past 2 years. SEC's been investigating. He's about to be indicted. If he had Evelyn's money, approximately $8 million, according to our preliminary research, he could have paid back what he stole and disappeared before anyone knew. $8 million. Marcus whistled low. That was worth killing for in some people's eyes. Hell, he'd known people who'd killed for a lot less. So when Evelyn changed her will, Thomas said slowly, she signed her own death warrant. We don't know that yet, but Morrison's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his expression changed. Son of a bitch. What? Richard Brooks just withdrew $50,000 from an ATM in Riverside 20 minutes ago. Morrison was already moving toward the door. He's running. Wait, Marcus stepped forward. What about Evelyn? If Richard knows she's alive? The uniform stays on her door. No one gets in without aid and authorization. She's safe. Morrison paused. But if you see Richard, if he contacts you for any reason, you call me immediately. Understood. Marcus nodded, watched Morrison disappear down the hallway, already barking orders into his phone, then turned back to find Thomas staring at him. You're going to stay, aren't you? Even though the police are here. Yeah. Why? Marcus looked at Evelyn again. At this old woman who'd been thrown away like garbage, left to die alone, forgotten. He thought about all the times he'd walked past homeless people, ignored cries for help, kept his head down and his problems to himself. Thought about his sister dying alone in a motel room while he was 3 states away, too strung out to care. Because someone should, he said quietly. Someone should give a damn. Thomas nodded, seemed to understand. I'm staying too. She's my sister, and His voice cracked again. I should have seen this coming. Should have protected her. You couldn't have known. Couldn't I? Thomas sat back down, suddenly looking every one of his 76 years. Richard's been trouble since he was a boy, cruel to animals, lied constantly, stole from his parents. We all knew what he was, but we made excuses. He's just going through a phase. He'll grow out of it. Boys will be boys. He laughed bitterly. And now look where those excuses got us. The machines beeped. The hospital hummed with quiet activity. And somewhere out there, Richard Brooks was running $50,000 in hand, a murder charge waiting for him. Mr. Brooks, Marcus said carefully, if Richard contacts you, I'll tell the police immediately. I'm not protecting him. Not after this. Thomas's eyes were hard. He tried to kill my sister. Family or not, he's going to pay for that. The night stretched on. Marcus took a chair in the corner, watched over Evelyn Brooks while she slept. Thomas sat by her side, holding her hand occasionally, whispering things Marcus couldn't hear. Apologies, maybe. Promises. The things people say when they think they might be running out of time. Around 4 a.m. Evelyn's eyes opened, confused at first, scanning the room, landing on Thomas. Tommy? Her voice was rough, barely there. I'm here, Evie. I'm right here. Her eyes found Marcus next. Recognition flickered. You stayed. Yeah, I stayed. They'll come back, she whispered. He won't let me testify. Won't let me ruin him. The police are looking for Richard, Thomas said gently. He's running. You're safe now. But Evelyn shook her head weakly. Not just him. The woman, she's the dangerous one. I heard her, talking to Richard. She told him where to dump me, how deep to bury me. She wasn't scared. She was organized. Morrison had been right about one thing. Panicked people made mistakes, but organized people, they were something else entirely. Did you recognize her voice? Marcus asked. No, but Evelyn closed her eyes, trying to remember. She called him baby, and he called her Mandy. Amanda, Thomas breathed. His girlfriend, Amanda Chen. Marcus pulled out his phone, called Morrison's number. It rang 4 times before the detective answered, sounding exhausted and pissed off. This better be important. Evelyn's awake. She identified the woman, Amanda Chen, Richard's girlfriend, and detective, she says Amanda was the one calling the shots. Silence on the other end. Then, son of a bitch, we've been looking at this wrong. Richard's the fall guy. Amanda's the brains. What do you mean? I mean, Amanda Chen doesn't exist. We ran her background. It's fake. Social Security number belongs to a woman who died in 2015. Work history is fabricated. References are all disconnected numbers. Morrison's voice was tight. Whoever she is, she targeted Richard specifically. Probably knew about his embezzling. Knew about Evelyn's money. Played him. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Then Richard's in danger too. Yeah, he just doesn't know it yet. Amanda gets him to kill his aunt, takes the fall for murder, and she disappears with whatever money she can get her hands on. Clean, simple, and we've got no idea who she really is. So what do? You nothing. You stay with Evelyn and let us handle this. Me, I'm going to find Richard before Amanda does, because right now he's the only lead we have. The call ended. Marcus looked at Thomas and Evelyn saw the fear in their eyes. Fear that made sense now, because this wasn't just about a greedy nephew anymore. This was something bigger, more dangerous. Who is she? Thomas asked. This Amanda woman? I don't know, Marcus said, but I'm going to find out. Even as he said it, he knew he was crossing a line, getting involved in something way above his pay grade, something that could get him killed. But when he looked at Evelyn, fragile, broken, thrown away like trash, he knew he couldn't walk away. Not this time. Because for once in his life, Marcus Kane was going to be the one who showed up, who stayed, who gave a damn when it mattered. The sun was starting to rise when the commotion started outside Evelyn's room. Raised voices, the uniformed cop saying something sharp. Then Morrison burst through the door, face grim. "We found Richard," he said, "or what's left of him." Thomas stood up so fast his chair hit the wall. "What do you mean, what's left of him?" Morrison closed the door behind him, lowered his voice. "Richard Brooks was found an hour ago in a storage unit in South District. Single gunshot to the head. Made to look like suicide. Made to look like—" Marcus was already on his feet. "His prints are on the gun. There's a note. But the angle's wrong and there's no powder residue on his hands. Someone staged it." Morrison's jaw tightened. Someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Evelyn made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Thomas moved to her side, took her hand. "Richard's dead." "Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry." "Don't be." Her voice was stronger now, cutting through the shock. "He tried to kill me, but he didn't deserve—" She stopped. "Who did this?" "We're working on that. But given the timeline, we think Amanda Chen killed him sometime between 4 and 6 a.m., right after he withdrew the money." Marcus felt the pieces clicking together. She used him, got him to do the dirty work with Evelyn, then eliminated him before he could talk. "That's our theory. Richard was a loose end, weak, scared, ready to crack under pressure." Morrison pulled out his phone, showed them a photo. Crime scene. Marcus had seen enough of those in his life to recognize one. Richard slumped in a metal chair, gun on the floor, blood on the wall behind him. The note says he couldn't live with what he'd done to his aunt. Says he deserves to die. But it's typed, not handwritten, and it's too perfect, too clean. "So Amanda's gone," Thomas said quietly. "With the money." "Not exactly." Morrison swiped to another photo where we found Richard's phone. He'd been texting someone, burner number, can't trace it. But the last message he sent was at 4:47 a.m. It said, "She's alive. They found her. What do we do?" The room went cold. The response came 3 minutes later. Morrison continued, "Meet me at the storage unit. We'll figure it out." And that's where we found him. Marcus looked at Evelyn, saw her face go white. "She knows I'm alive." "Yes." "Then she'll come for me." "Not if we get to her first." Morrison's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, swore under his breath. "I have to go. There's been a development. But Evelyn," he met her eyes, "you're safe here. We've got guards on your door. Security's been alerted, and no one gets in without proper ID. Amanda Chen, or whoever she really is, isn't getting near you." He left. The door clicked and shut, and the three of them sat in the heavy silence processing what had just happened. "Richard's dead," Thomas finally said. "My nephew is dead." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "I know he tried to kill me. I know he was cruel and selfish and weak. But he was still my brother's son, still family." "Family that threw you in a landfill to die," Marcus said, then immediately regretted the harshness. "I'm sorry, that was—" "True." Evelyn wiped her eyes. "It was true, but it still hurts, because I remember when he was small. When he used to visit me and sit in my kitchen and eat cookies and tell me about school. I remember when he was innocent, before the money mattered, before he became what he became." Thomas squeezed her hand. "We all remember that Richard, but he's been gone for a long time, Evie. What he turned into, that wasn't our fault." "Wasn't it?" She looked at her brother. "We had money, lots of it, and we taught him that money was the most important thing, that having it meant you mattered, that losing it meant you were nothing. That's not fair, isn't it? Think about it, Tommy. Think about how we lived. The country clubs, the galas, the constant competition with the Hendersons and the Pratts. Everything was about status, about being better than, about having more." Evelyn's voice cracked. "We raised him in that world, and now he's dead because of it." Marcus stayed quiet. This wasn't his conversation to join, but he understood what Evelyn was saying. He'd grown up without money, watched people kill themselves, trying to get it seen, families torn apart by the lack of it. Money didn't make people evil, but it sure as hell revealed who they really were. What about the other victims? Thomas asked suddenly. Morrison mentioned there might be others, elderly people who disappeared. He did. Marcus pulled out his phone, started searching. Let me see what I can find. It didn't take long. 3 minutes of digging brought up a local news article from 6 months ago. Missing 76-year-old Helen Martinez, last seen leaving Sunrise Manor Care Facility. Police say there's no sign of foul play. Sunrise Manor, that was Evelyn's facility. Another article. Family seeks answers after 82-year-old James Patterson vanishes from assisted living. Authorities believe he may have wandered off due to dementia. Same facility. Another. Ruth Chen, 79, declared missing after failing to show up for weekly family dinner. Search continues. Jesus Christ. Marcus looked up. 3 people from Sunrise Manor in the past 8 months. All elderly, all declared missing with minimal investigation. Ruth Chen, Flynn said softly. I knew Ruth. We played cards together every Tuesday. She was sharp as a tack. No dementia, no confusion. 1 week she was there, the next she was gone. They said she'd probably moved to be with family out of state. Did she have family out of state? I don't know. I never thought to ask. I just accepted what they told us. Evelyn's hands started shaking. What if she didn't move? What if someone took her too? Thomas started pacing. We need to tell Morrison about this. These disappearances could be connected. They are connected, Marcus said. I'd bet my bike on it. Question is how and why. The answer came faster than any of them expected. Morrison returned 20 minutes later, and this time he wasn't alone. A woman in a sharp suit followed him, an FBI badge clipped to her belt. This is Special Agent Victoria Nash, Morrison said. FBI Financial Crimes. She's been investigating a case that just intersected with ours. Agent Nash had the kind of face that gave nothing away. 50-something gray hair, pulled back, tight eyes that had seen every kind of lie. Ms. Brooks, I'm glad you're alive, and I'm sorry about your nephew. Don't be, Evelyn said for the second time. Nash almost smiled. Fair enough. I'm here because Richard Brooks was on our radar for embezzlement, but so was his employer, Silverstone Capital Management. We've been building a case against them for 2 years. What kind of case? Thomas asked. Elder fraud, specifically targeting wealthy seniors with cognitive decline or no close family. Silverstone would get themselves named as financial guardians, then slowly drain the accounts. By the time anyone noticed, the victim was either dead or too confused to testify. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How many victims? That we know of, 43. That we suspect, over 100. Nash pulled out a tablet, showed them a list of names. Most of them are dead now. Natural causes supposedly, but the pattern's there if you look for it. Silverstone gets control of the finances. The victim dies within 6 to 18 months. The money disappears into offshore accounts. And Amanda Chen, Marcus asked. We don't have anyone's by that name in our investigation, but... Nash swiped to a photo, not the same woman Marcus had seen on Thomas's phone earlier. This one was older, harder. This is Mei Zhang, also known as Maria Sanchez, also known as Michelle Carter. She's a professional con artist specializing in elder fraud. Has been for 15 years. Works with accomplices, usually young men she can manipulate. Uses them to gain access to wealthy targets, then disposes of them when they become liabilities. That's her, Evelyn said immediately. That's the woman from the car. I didn't see her face, but the voice, I'd know that voice anywhere. Nash nodded grimly. Mei Zhang has been connected to at least 7 suspicious deaths. But she's careful, always has an alibi, always has someone else to take the fall. We've never been able to make anything stick. Until now, Morrison said. Richard's murder gives us physical evidence. The staged suicide, the timeline, the motive. If we can prove Mei Zhang is Amanda Chen, we can finally nail her. Big if, Nash said. She changes identities like other people change clothes. By now, she's probably 3 states away with a new name and a new target. No, Evelyn shook her head. She's not done here. She knows I can identify her. She knows I'm alive. She won't run until she finishes what she started. The room went silent. Because Evelyn was right. Mei Zhang had spent months, maybe years, setting this up. She'd infiltrated Richard's life, learned about his family, discovered Evelyn's money. She wouldn't walk away from $8 million just because the plan got messy. We need to use that, Marcus said. Everyone looked at him. If she thinks Evelyn's vulnerable, if she thinks she can still get to her, we can set a trap. Absolutely not, Morrison said immediately. We're not using a civilian as bait. I'm not a civilian, Evelyn said quietly. I'm a victim who refuses to stay quiet. And if my being here can help catch the woman who killed my nephew and God knows how many others, then I'm willing to take that risk. Ms. Brooks. Detective Morrison, I'm 80 years old. I was thrown in a landfill and left to die. I should be dead right now. The fact that I'm not is a gift I don't intend to waste. Evelyn's voice was steel. So either help me catch this woman or get out of my way. Thomas started to protest, but Nash held up a hand. What did you have in mind? Marcus hadn't actually thought that far ahead, but now with everyone looking at him, the pieces started falling into place. Mei Zhang thinks Evelyn's in the hospital, recovering but vulnerable. She also knows Richard's dead, which means her original plan is blown. But she's smart, adaptable. She'll come up with a new approach. Like what? Nash asked. Like getting close to Evelyn legally, as a social worker maybe, or a victim's advocate, someone who'd have legitimate access to her room. Marcus looked at Morrison. Have there been any new staff members at the hospital in the past few days? Anyone asking about Evelyn specifically? Morrison pulled out his radio, made a call. 2 minutes of conversation, then his face changed. Son of a bitch. A woman claiming to be from Adult Protective Services tried to get into Evelyn's room an hour ago, said she needed to do a welfare check. The guard turned her away because she wasn't on the approved list, but she had credentials that looked legitimate. Description, Nash demanded. Asian female, late 30s, professional appearance. Gave her name as Lisa Park. Nash was already on her phone pulling up DMV records, cross-referencing databases. Lisa Park is a real APS worker, but she's currently on vacation in Hawaii, has been for the past week. Mei Zhang, Evelyn said. She was here, in this hospital. And now she knows the security's tight, Marcus said. So she'll try something else, something that gets past the guards. Like what? Thomas asked. The answer hit Marcus like a punch. Fire alarm or a medical emergency, something that creates chaos, forces an evacuation. In the confusion, she grabs Evelyn and disappears. Morrison's face went white. We need to move her. Now. No, Nash held up a hand. If we move her, we lose our advantage. Mei Zhang is here close taking risks. That means she's desperate. We can use that. Use it how? Thomas demanded. By letting her try again. By letting her think she's succeeding. Nash turned to Morrison. How many undercover officers can you get in here? 6, maybe 8. Why? Because we're going to give Mei Zhang exactly what she wants. Access to Evelyn Brooks. And when she makes her move, we'll be waiting. The plan came together fast. Too fast, in Marcus's opinion. They'd move Evelyn to a private room on the 3rd floor. Reduce visible security to make it look vulnerable. Plant undercover officers as nurses, orderlies, visitors. Wait for Mei Zhang to make her play. And what about me? Marcus asked. You go home, Morrison said flatly. You've done enough, more than enough. But this is police work now. No way. Evelyn asked me to stay. Mr. Kane, I'm staying. Marcus met Morrison's glare with one of his own. You want me to sit in the waiting room? Fine. You want me to stay in the hallway? Fine. But I'm not leaving her alone. He stays, Evelyn said. Her voice was weak but firm. Marcus saved my life. If anyone's earned the right to see this through, it's him. Morrison looked like he wanted to argue, but Nash nodded. He can stay. Might even be useful. Mei Zhang won't recognize him as law enforcement. Could be an advantage. They moved Evelyn 2 hours later. New room, new floor, carefully orchestrated to look routine while actually being anything but. Marcus watched as undercover officers filtered in, each one playing a role. The maintenance guy fixing the thermostat. The volunteer pushing the library cart. The nurse who checked vitals a little too often. And then they waited. 6 hours. 8. 10. Marcus stayed in Evelyn's room, sitting in the corner watching. Thomas had gone home to rest reluctantly after Evelyn insisted. The old woman slept fitfully, waking every hour or so, looking around like she expected to see Mei Zhang standing over her bed. You should sleep, Marcus said during one of her wakeful moments. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in that landfill. I can smell the rot, feel the cold. She looked at him. Do you have nightmares, Marcus? Yeah. What about? He hesitated. Didn't usually talk about this stuff. But something about Evelyn, maybe the fact that she'd been through hell and was still here, still fighting, made him want to be honest. My sister, she died 7 years ago. Overdose. I was 3 states away when it happened. High as hell myself, couldn't even make it to the funeral. I'm sorry. So am I, every day. Marcus looked out the window at the city lights. She called me that night, left a message, said she needed help, said she was scared, and I was too messed up to care. You can't blame yourself for that. Can I? I was her big brother. I was supposed to protect her. Instead, I was too busy running from my own problems to notice she was drowning in hers. He turned back to Evelyn. That's why I'm here. Why I can't walk away from this. Because I walked away once before and someone died. I'm not doing that again. Evelyn's eyes glistened. Your sister would be proud of you, of who you've become. I haven't become anything. I'm just a guy trying to do one decent thing before he dies. That's more than most people manage. The alarm went off at 11:47 p.m. Not a fire alarm. Code blue is in room 312, cardiac arrest, and staff flooded the hallways rushing toward the emergency. Chaos, shouting, the organized mayhem of a hospital in crisis mode. Marcus was on his feet instantly. That's 3 doors down. Morrison burst in already on his radio. Is it real or staged? Real patient, real emergency, came the response. But the lights went out. Emergency backup kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in dim red. But in those 3 seconds, Marcus heard it. The soft click of Evelyn's door opening. The rustle of fabric. Movement. He spun around. A figure in scrubs stood in the doorway, face obscured by a surgical mask, hands reaching for Evelyn. Get down! Marcus launched himself forward, hit the figure hard, both of them crashing into the hallway. The person was small but strong, fighting back with trained precision, a knee to his ribs, elbow to his jaw. Then they were up and running. Morrison was yelling, officers converging, but the figure was fast. Dodged through the chaos, used the code blue commotion as cover, headed for the stairwell. Marcus ran after them. His ribs screamed where he'd been hit. His jaw throbbed, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Because if this was Mei Zhang, if she got away, she'd disappear forever. And more people would die. The stairwell door slammed open. Marcus followed. Down, always down. Footsteps echoing. He caught a glimpse of the figure 2 flights below, moving like a ghost. Ground floor. The figure burst out into the lobby, pulling off the surgical mask, the scrubs. Underneath, street clothes. A wig dropped. By the time Marcus made it to the lobby, she looked like any other visitor. Asian woman, 40s, ordinary, unremarkable. Except for her eyes. When she turned and saw Marcus, her eyes were dead. Cold. The eyes of someone who'd killed before and would kill again without hesitation. Don't, Marcus said, knowing it was useless. She smiled, actually smiled, then ran for the exit. Morrison and 2 uniforms hit the lobby, seconds later saw the woman running, gave chase. Marcus followed, lungs burning, everything hurting. Out into the parking lot. The woman was heading for a car, keys already in hand. Stop, police! Morrison had his gun out now. She didn't stop. Dove into the car, engine roaring to life. Tires squealed as she backed out, nearly hit a parked ambulance, corrected and shot toward the exit. Morrison fired twice. 1 bullet shattered the rear window. The other hit the tire. The car swerved, fishtailed, but kept going. Made it to the street and disappeared into traffic. Damn it, Morrison was already on his radio. All units suspect fleeing westbound on Hamilton in a gray Honda Civic license plate, Charlie Delta 7392. Consider armed and dangerous. Marcus bent over, trying to catch his breath. His entire body felt like it had been hit by a truck. But Evelyn was safe, that's what mattered. You all right? Morrison asked. Yeah, she got a few good hits in, but I'm fine. That was stupid, you could have been killed. But I wasn't, and neither was Evelyn. Morrison looked at him for a long moment. You're either very brave or very crazy, Kane. Probably a little of both. They found her car 20 minutes later. Abandoned in a grocery store parking lot, wiped clean of prints. Mei Zhang was gone. But this time they had something they didn't have before. Security footage. clear images of her face. Partial DNA from where Marcus had fought her. Proof that she'd attempted to abduct Evelyn from a hospital while impersonating a nurse. She's going to run, Nash said when they regrouped. Change identities again. We might never find her. But Marcus wasn't so sure, because he'd seen something in Mei Zhang's eyes, something beyond the coldness. Rage, frustration, the look of someone who didn't like losing, who wouldn't accept failure. She'll try again, he said. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but she's not done with Evelyn. Then we keep guards on her 24/7, Morrison said. For how long? Weeks, months? You don't have the budget for that. Then what do you suggest? Marcus looked at Evelyn, sleeping peacefully now, unaware of how close she'd come to dying again. We find her first, before she finds us. Nash looked at Marcus like he'd lost his mind. You're not a cop. You're not FBI. You're a biker who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Wrong place, wrong time, Marcus corrected. And yeah, I'm not law enforcement, but I'm also not bound by the same rules you are. Meaning what exactly? Meaning I can go places you can't. Talk to people who won't talk to cops. Ask questions that would get thrown out in court. Marcus met her stare. Mei Zhang has been doing this for 15 years. She's careful, professional, but she's also human. And humans make mistakes when they're angry. Morrison shook his head. This is a bad idea. You got a better one. Silence. Because they didn't. The FBI had been chasing Mei Zhang for years with nothing to show for it. Local PD had 43 dead seniors and 0 arrests. Traditional methods weren't working. What are you proposing? Nash asked carefully. I start at Sunrise Manor. That's where this all began. That's where Evelyn lived, where Ruth Chen disappeared, where Helen Martinez and James Patterson vanished. If there's a pattern, it starts there. We've already investigated Sunrise Manor, Morrison said. Nothing suspicious. Clean records, licensed staff, regular inspections. Then someone's very good at hiding it, or someone's being paid to look the other way. Marcus pulled out his phone, started making notes. Who owns Sunrise Manor? Nash pulled up the information. Cascade Senior Living. It's a corporation that owns 17 facilities across 3 states. CEO is a man named Robert Vance. Former hospital administrator, clean background, no criminal record. What about the staff at Sunrise Manor specifically? Director is Patricia Holbrook. She's been there 8 years. Before that, she worked at 2 other facilities, both owned by different companies. No red flags. Someone at that facility is working with Mei Zhang, Marcus said. Has to be. She couldn't have accessed 3 residents without inside help. Someone who knows the schedules, the security who's vulnerable, and who has money. That's speculation, Morrison said. No, that's logic. And if I'm right, then more people are in danger right now, because Mei Zhang isn't the only predator. She's just the one we know about. Evelyn's voice came from the bed, weak but clear. He's right. There was a nurse at Sunrise Manor. She was always very interested in our finances, in who had family, who didn't, who was sharp and who was fading. Everyone turned to look at her. What nurse? Nash asked. I don't remember her name, but she was young, pretty, always very helpful. Too helpful, maybe. She'd offer to help residents with their banking, with paying bills, said she was just trying to be nice. Evelyn's face tightened. Ruth Chen trusted her. I remember Ruth mentioning that the nurse had helped her set up online banking. Made it easier, Ruth said. Easier to steal from, Marcus said quietly. Nash was already typing. I need a list of all staff members at Sunrise Manor for the past 2 years. Cross-reference with financial records for the missing residents. See if any money moved after they disappeared. Her phone rang. She answered, listened, and her expression changed. Say that again. A pause. You're sure? Another pause. Send me everything you have. She hung up, looked at Morrison. That was my team. They just found something. Ruth Chen's bank account showed a transfer of $75,000 3 days before she disappeared, sent to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Ruth authorized it. Thomas had returned looking exhausted but determined. That's what the bank records say. But Ruth's daughter swears her mother would never have done that. Says Ruth didn't even know how to use a computer, much less set up an international wire transfer. Someone did it for her, Marcus said. Someone with access to her account information? Someone she trusted? The nurse, Evelyn whispered. It has to be. Nash made 3 phone calls in rapid succession. By the time she was done, they had a name. Jennifer Walsh, registered nurse, worked at Sunrise Manor for 18 months. Left 3 weeks ago, no forwarding address. And here's the interesting part, Jennifer Walsh's employment history before Sunrise Manor. It doesn't exist. The references she provided were all fake. Marcus felt electricity run through him. She's working with Mei Jiang. Maybe she is Mei Jiang. No. Nash showed them a photo from Sunrise Manor's employee files. Jennifer Walsh is white blonde, 32 years old. Different person entirely. But she pulled up another photo. This is Mei Jiang's known associate from a case in Oregon 5 years ago. Woman named Sarah Bright, also white, also blonde, also disappeared without a trace after 3 seniors died under suspicious circumstances. Same MO and him, Morrison said. Different city, different facility, but the same pattern. They're a team, Marcus said. Mei Jiang handles the big targets, the complicated cons. The associate Sarah or Jennifer or whatever she calls herself works inside the facility. Identifies marks, gains their trust, sets them up. And when they're done, Thomas said quietly, they move on to the next facility, the next city, the next group of victims. The scope of it was staggering. 17 facilities, 3 states, how many victims, how many families destroyed, how much money stolen. We need to shut down Sunrise Manor, Morrison said. Get warrants, search the place, interview every staff member. That'll take days, Marcus argued. By then, Jennifer Walsh will be long gone, and Mei Jiang withdrawn her. So what do you suggest? We just let you walk in there and start asking questions. Yeah, that's exactly what I suggest. Marcus stood. I tell them I'm Evelyn's friend. Say she asked me to pick up some of her belongings. I talk to staff, see who gets nervous, see who asks too many questions about Evelyn's condition. That's entrapment, Morrison said. No, it's conversation. I'm not a cop. I don't need probable cause. Marcus looked at Evelyn. If you're okay with it. I am. But Marcus, she reached out, grabbed his hand. Be careful. If they're working with Mei Jiang, they know what you look like. They know you're the one who found me. I'll be careful. He wasn't careful enough. Sunrise Manor sat on 3 acres of manicured lawn in the good part of town, all brick and windows and tasteful landscaping. The kind of place that costs $6,000 a month and promised dignified living for your golden years. Marcus parked his bike out front, took a breath, and walked in. The lobby was all soft colors and quiet music. A receptionist looked up, smiled the professional smile of someone trained to deal with grieving families and confused residents. Can I help you? Yeah, I'm here to pick up some things for Evelyn Brooks. She asked me to get some clothes and personal items. The smile faltered, just for a second, but Marcus saw it. Ms. Brooks, I'm sorry, but I'll need to verify. She's at County General, room 347. You can call and ask her yourself. Of course, just one moment. The receptionist picked up the phone dial-ad. Had a quiet conversation Marcus couldn't hear. Then hung up. I'm sorry, but I'll need to speak with our director. She handles all resident requests. Would you mind waiting? Sure. Marcus sat in the lobby watching. Residents shuffled past, some with walkers, some in wheelchairs, some moving under their own power, but slowly, carefully, like the world had become a fragile place they might break. Staff moved among them, nurses in scrubs, aides in polo shirts, all wearing the same tired but patient expression. Patricia Holbrook appeared 10 minutes later. 50-something, gray hair in a bun, the kind of woman who'd spent her whole life taking care of other people and had the exhaustion to prove it. Mr. Kane, I'm Patricia Holbrook, director of Sunrise Manor. I understand you're here on behalf of Evelyn Brooks. That's right, she's recovering at County General and asked me to pick up some things from her room. Of course. But I'm afraid I can't release any resident's personal belongings without proper authorization. Family only, typically. Are you family? No, I'm the guy who found her in a landfill and saved her life. Patricia's face went white. I heard about what happened. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible, but policy is policy. I'll need written authorization from Ms. Brooks or her legal guardian. Her brother Thomas is her legal guardian. I can get him on the phone right now if you want. That won't be necessary. If you could just have him send an email. What about Jennifer Walsh? The name hit like a bomb. Patricia actually took a step back. Who? Jennifer Walsh, nurse who worked here until 3 weeks ago. She was helping Evelyn with her banking. I need to talk to her. Jennifer no longer works here, and I'm not authorized to give out information about former employees, not even when they're connected to attempted murder. Patricia's hands started shaking. I think you should leave. I think you should answer my questions, because right now the FBI is pulling records on every resident who's gone missing from this facility in the past 2 years. And when they find out that Jennifer Walsh was involved with all of them, and that you were the director who hired her, who supervised her, who didn't notice anything suspicious, how do you think that's going to look? I had no idea. Didn't you? Marcus stepped closer. 3 residents vanished in 8 months, all of them with significant assets, all of them under Jennifer Walsh's care. And you didn't think that was worth investigating. People leave facilities all the time. They move to be with family, they go to different care levels. They get dumped in landfills to die. Marcus's voice was hard. Ruth Chen, Helen Martinez, James Patterson. When was the last time you checked if they're actually alive? Patricia looked like she might be sick. You need to leave now or I'm calling the police. Good, call them. Ask for Detective Sergeant Morrison. He'll be very interested in what you have to say. She didn't call, just stood there shaking, looking at Marcus like he was a monster. And maybe he was. Maybe pushing this hard, this fast was cruel, but people were dying, and someone in this building knew why. Ms. Holbrook, Marcus said more gently, I'm not trying to ruin your life. I'm trying to save lives. If you know anything about Jennifer Walsh, about where she might have gone, about who she was working with, now's the time to tell me. Patricia sat down heavily in one of the lobby chairs. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. Jennifer seemed so dedicated, so caring. The residents loved her. I'm sure they did, right up until she stole their money and made them disappear. When Ruth Chen left, Jennifer said Ruth had decided to move in with her daughter in Florida. She even showed me an email from Ruth saying goodbye. I had no reason to doubt it. Do you still have that email? It would be in Ruth's file, but Patricia looked up. The police already have it. They took all of Ruth's records 2 days ago. Marcus pulled out his phone, texted Morrison. Need to see Ruth Chen's file, specifically email about moving to Florida. The response came back in 30 seconds. Already on it. Email was sent from Ruth's account, but IP address traces to a coffee shop downtown. Not her. Fabricated, all of it. What about security footage? Marcus asked Patricia. From the night Ruth disappeared. We don't have cameras in the residential wings. Privacy concerns. We only have cameras in common areas and entrances. Show me. Patricia hesitated, then stood. This way. She led him to a small office behind the reception desk, pulled up the security system. What date? March 15th. That's when Ruth was last seen. Patricia typed brought up footage. They watched residents moving through the lobby, staff checking in and out, visitors coming and going. Normal, routine, nothing suspicious. Then at 11:47 p.m., Ruth Chen appeared, walking slowly but steadily, a small suitcase in her hand. She was smiling, waving at the night receptionist, acting like everything was fine. See, Patricia said, she left on her own. Keep watching. 2 minutes later, a car pulled up to the entrance. Ruth got in the back seat. The car drove away. The angle made it impossible to see the driver or the license plate. Who was driving? Marcus asked. I don't know. I assumed it was Ruth's daughter. It wasn't. Ruth's daughter lives in Florida and hadn't spoken to her mother in 3 months. They were estranged. Marcus rewound the footage, paused on Ruth's face. She was smiling, but her eyes looked wrong. Glassy, unfocused. She was drugged. What? Look at her eyes. Look at how she's moving. That's not normal. Someone gave her something to make her compliant, to make her walk out of here without fighting or screaming. Patricia stared at the screen. Oh my God. Did Jennifer Walsh work that night? Patricia checked the schedule. Her face went even whiter. Yes, she was the night nurse. She would have given Ruth her evening medications. And there it was, the pattern. Jennifer Walsh drugged the victims, walked them out, handed them over to Mahjong or whoever was waiting. Clean, simple, untraceable. By the time anyone realized something was wrong, the victim was already gone. I need to see Jennifer's employment records. everything you have on her. Patricia pulled the file. Marcus read through it quickly. References from 2 previous facilities, both disconnected numbers now. Address on file was a vacant lot. Social security number would probably turn out to be fake, just like Amanda Chen's. But there was one thing that caught his attention. Emergency contact. Sarah Bright's sister phone number, 555-0147. Sarah Bright, Nash's known associate. Marcus called Morrison. I've got a phone number. Jennifer Walsh listed Sarah Bright as her emergency contact. Can you trace it? Already working on it. But Kane, you need to get out of there now. Why Duffin? Because we just got a tip. Anonymous call saying there's a suspicious person at Sunrise Manor harassing staff. Described you perfectly. Someone's watching you. Marcus looked around the office. No windows. One door. If someone wanted to trap him here, this would be the place to do it. I'm leaving. He hung up, turned to Patricia. Thank you for your help. And Ms. Holbrook, when the FBI gets here, tell them everything. Don't try to protect anyone. It won't help you and it won't save them. He walked back through the lobby, eyes scanning for threats. Everything looked normal, but his instincts were screaming that something was wrong. He made it to his bike, helmet on key in the ignition. The engine roared to life. He was just about to pull away when he saw her, standing across the street, watching him. Mahjong. Their eyes met. And in that moment, Marcus understood. This wasn't about Evelyn anymore. This was personal. He'd humiliated Mahjong twice, once by finding Evelyn, once by stopping her at the hospital. She wasn't just protecting her operation now. She was hunting. She smiled, raised her phone, and took his picture. Marcus didn't wait to see what she'd do with it. Just gunned the throttle and got the hell out of there. He called Morrison while riding, voice raised over the wind. She was there, at Sunrise Manor, watching me. Where are you now? Heading back to the hospital. But Morrison, she took my picture. She knows what I look like, where I go, probably where I live. I'm not just a witness anymore. I'm a target. Then you need protection. I need to find her before she finds me. He hung up, mind racing. Mahjong was escalating, getting reckless. That was good and bad. Good because reckless people made mistakes. Bad because reckless people were unpredictable. Dangerous. His phone rang again. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. Yeah, Marcus Kane. Mahjong's voice was smooth, professional, almost pleasant. We should talk. I've got nothing to say to you. I think you do, because right now you're making this very complicated for both of us. I have a business to run. You're interfering with it. Your business is killing old people. I'm going to keep interfering until you're in prison or dead. She laughed, actually laughed. You're very brave. Stupid but brave. Do you know how many people have tried to stop me over the years, 12? Would you like to know what happened to them? Marcus didn't answer. They all died. Some quickly, some slowly, but they all died because they underestimated me. They thought I was just a con artist, just a thief. They didn't understand what I really am. What are you, inevitable? The word hung in the air like a threat. People like Evelyn Brooks, they're going to die anyway. I'm just accelerating the process and making a profit while I do it. It's efficient, natural selection for the modern age. You're insane. I'm practical. And Marcus, here is what's going to happen. You're going to stop investigating, stop interfering, stop protecting Evelyn, and in return, I'll let you live. Go to hell. That's what I thought you'd say. Which means we're going to do this the hard way. Mahjong's voice turned cold. I know where you live. I know you have a neighbor in apartment 3B named Mrs. Castillo, 78 years old, lives alone, very trusting. I wonder what would happen if she had a visitor tonight. Marcus's blood turned to ice. You touch her and You'll what? You're one man on a motorcycle. I'm a network. I have resources you can't imagine. People in every city, every facility, every system. I've been doing this for 15 years and no one has ever stopped me. What makes you think you can? Because I'm not giving up. Because I'm not walking away. Because I'm done letting people like you hurt people like Evelyn. Silence, then. We'll see. Goodbye, Marcus. Tell Evelyn I said hello and tell her she should have just died in that landfill. It would have been easier for everyone. The line went dead. Marcus was shaking, not from fear, from rage. Pure, burning rage. He turned the bike around, headed for his apartment building. If Mei Jiang was going after Mrs. Castillo, he needed to get there first. He called Morrison again. She threatened my neighbor. Elderly woman lives alone. I'm heading there now, but I need backup. On it. I'll have units there in 5 minutes. Marcus pushed the bike faster. 3 blocks. 2. 1. He screeched into the parking lot, jumped off before the engine even stopped, ran for the building. Mrs. Castillo's door was open. No. He ran inside. Mrs. Castillo. She was in the kitchen, making tea, completely unharmed. She looked up, startled. Marcus, what's wrong? Are you okay? Has anyone been here? Anyway, you don't know. What? No, I've been here all evening. Marcus, you're scaring me. Relief hit him like a wave. I'm sorry, I thought someone might. He couldn't finish, couldn't explain without terrifying her. But then he saw it on her kitchen table, a single white rose in a vase, and a card. Mrs. Castillo followed his gaze. Oh, that. Someone left it outside my door about an hour ago. Isn't that sweet? I don't know who it's from. Marcus picked up the card with shaking hands, opened it. Next time, I won't be so generous. M. She'd been here, in this building, outside Mrs. Castillo's door. The rose was a message, a promise. I can get to anyone, anywhere, anytime. Morrison and 2 uniforms arrived 3 minutes later, took statements, bagged the rose and card as evidence, told Mrs. Castillo she needed to stay with family for a few days just to be safe. After they left, Morrison pulled Marcus aside. This is out of control. Mei Jiang is threatening civilians now. We need to take you and Evelyn into protective custody. She'll just wait us out or find new targets. Then what do you suggest? Marcus thought about the phone number, the emergency contact. Sarah Bright. We flip Jennifer Walsh, find her, offer her a deal. She testifies against Mei Jiang, we give her immunity. FBI won't go for that. They will if it's the only way to catch Mei Jiang, and it is. Marcus met Morrison's eyes. Because we're not going to find Mei Jiang. She's too good, too careful. But Jennifer Walsh, she's not a professional. She's someone who got in over her head, and now she's scared. We use that. Morrison considered. I'll talk to Nash. But Marcus, you need to back off. Go somewhere safe. Let us handle this. Can't do that. Why not? Because Mei Jiang just made this personal, and I don't walk away from personal. Nash showed up at Marcus's apartment an hour later with a file folder and a grim expression. We found Jennifer Walsh, or rather, she found us. Marcus looked up from packing a bag. If Mei Jiang knew where he lived, he wasn't staying here. What do you mean she found you? She walked into the FBI field office 20 minutes ago and asked for protection. Said she wants to cooperate, but she's terrified Mei Jiang will kill her. Nash dropped the folder on Marcus's kitchen table. And after hearing what she has to say, I think she's right to be terrified. Morrison came through the door behind Nash, coffee in hand. We need to move this conversation somewhere secure. Your apartment's compromised. Already planned on it. Marcus grabbed his bag. Where are we going? Safe house in Westbrook. Jennifer's already there. And Marcus, Morrison's face was serious. What she's telling us, it's bigger than we thought. A lot bigger. They drove in silence. Marcus on his bike following Morrison's unmarked car through the city until they reached a nondescript house in a quiet suburb. Normal, anonymous, the kind of place you drive past 100 times and never notice. Inside, Jennifer Walsh sat at a kitchen table looking like she'd aged 10 years in 3 weeks. She was thin, pale hands shaking as she held a cup of coffee. When she saw Marcus, she flinched. It's okay, Nash said. He's with us. He's the one who found Evelyn. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. May told me. She said if it wasn't for him, we'd be in the Caymans right now with $8 million. Instead, you're here, Marcus said flatly, talking to the FBI. How'd that happen? Jennifer looked at him with hollow eyes. Because Richard's dead. Because May killed him and I realized I was next. She doesn't leave loose ends. I was useful when I could get her inside facilities, when I could identify targets and set them up. But now that Evelyn's alive, now that the FBI's involved, I'm just another witness she needs to eliminate. Nash pulled out a recorder, set it on the table. Jennifer, we need you to tell us everything, From the beginning, how you met Mei Jiang, how the operation worked, every facility you worked at, every victim, all of it. Jennifer nodded, started talking, and what came out was worse than anything Marcus had imagined. She'd met Mei Jiang 5 years ago at a nursing home in Seattle. Jennifer was a real nurse then, working legitimate jobs, struggling with student loans and credit card debt. Mei Jiang had approached her with a simple proposition. Help identify wealthy residents with no close family, provide access to their financial information, and get 20% of whatever they took. I didn't think anyone would get hurt, Jennifer said, and Marcus almost laughed at how pathetic that sounded. May said we just take a little at a time. Small withdrawals they wouldn't notice. I thought it was like Robin Hood, taking from people who had more money than they could ever spend. Except Robin Hood didn't murder people, Morrison said. Jennifer started crying. I didn't know she was killing them, I swear. The first few victims, they just moved away. That's what May told me, that she'd convinced them to sign over power of attorney and then relocated them to cheaper facilities where she could control their care. I believed her. When did you figure out the truth? Nash asked. Portland, 2 years ago, there was a man, Gerald Hoffman, 83, widower, $3 million in assets. I set him up the usual way, gained his trust, helped him with his medications, got access to his bank information. May came in as his financial advisor. Within 2 months, we transferred most of his money offshore. Jennifer wiped her eyes. Then Gerald had a stroke, ended up in the hospital, started telling nurses that someone was stealing from him, that his advisor was a fraud. What happened to Gerald? Marcus asked, already knowing the answer. He died 3 days later. Hospital said it was another stroke, but I saw May leaving his room the night before, and I knew what she'd done. Jennifer's hands were shaking so hard coffee sloshed out of her cup. I confronted her, told her I wanted out, and she laughed. Said if I tried to leave, if I went to the police, she'd make sure I took the fall for everything. She had documentation, emails, recordings, all of it, making me look like the mastermind and her like an innocent accountant who got caught up in my scheme. Nash leaned forward. How many victims total? I don't know exact numbers. I was only involved with 9. But May works with other people like me, other nurses, other aides. She calls them her scouts. She recruits them at different facilities, uses them until they get nervous, or the facility gets too hot, then moves them to a new location. Jennifer looked at Marcus. Evelyn was supposed to be my last one. May promised if I helped with her, I could retire, take my cut and disappear. Instead, Richard screwed it up, Morrison said. Richard was weak, panicked. May only recruited him because his aunt was the target. She needed someone with family access, someone who could get Evelyn out of Sunrise Manor without raising alarms. But Richard talked too much, drank too much, and when Evelyn survived, he fell apart. Jennifer's voice dropped. May called me the morning they found Evelyn, told me to disappear, said she'd handle Richard and we'd regroup later. I should have known she meant kill him. Why did you run? Nash asked. Why not go to the police then? Because I'm guilty. I helped kill 9 people, maybe more if you count the ones I didn't directly work on, but gave May information about. The police would have arrested me. She looked at Nash desperately. But I can help you now. I can testify. I know how her network operates, who some of the other scouts are, which facilities she's targeted. I can give you everything. In exchange for what? Morrison asked. Witness protection. Immunity. A new life somewhere she can't find me. Jennifer's voice cracked. I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did was evil. But I don't want to die. Nash and Morrison exchanged a look. Then Nash said, We'll talk to the prosecutor. But Jennifer, you need to understand immunity isn't guaranteed. You've committed serious crimes. The best we can do is recommend a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation. How reduced? 20 years instead of life, maybe less if your testimony leads to convictions. Jennifer closed her eyes. Okay, I'll take it. Marcus had been quiet, letting the professionals handle the interrogation. But now he spoke up. You said May has other scouts. How does she find them? She looks for nurses and aides with financial problems, student loans, medical debt, gambling issues, people who are desperate enough to cross ethical lines but not criminal enough to do it on their own. She offers them money, makes it seem easy and victimless. Jennifer opened her eyes. And once they're in, she has leverage, documentation of their crimes, recordings of their conversations. She owns them. How many scouts are active right now? I don't know. She never told me about the others. Said it was safer if we didn't know each other. But based on how many facilities she's hit in the past 5 years, I'd guess at least 6, maybe more. 6 facilities, 6 sets of vulnerable elderly people being hunted. Marcus felt sick. Where is she now? Morrison demanded. Where does Mei Zhang go when she's not working a con? She moves around, never stays in one place long, but she has a property in Montana, a cabin near Glacier National Park, remote off the grid. She goes there between jobs to lay low. Nash was already on her phone. I need the exact location. Jennifer pulled out her own phone, opened a Maps app. Here, it's about 30 miles outside Kalispell. No neighbors for miles. She picked it specifically because if anyone comes looking, she'll see them coming from a mile away. Morrison studied the location. That's federal land. We'd need to coordinate with local law enforcement, get warrants, plan a tactical approach. That's days of prep work. We don't have days, Marcus said. She threatened Mrs. Castillo tonight. He's escalating. If we don't move fast, more people will die. We can't just rush in without a plan, Nash argued. Mei Zhang is smart. She'll have security, probably weapons. We go in unprepared and people get killed. People are already getting killed. Marcus stood up, paced the kitchen. While we're sitting here planning, she's out there targeting her next victim, or coming after Evelyn again, or Mrs. Castillo, or any one of 100 other vulnerable people she's got in her sights. Marcus, Morrison started. No, listen to me. Mei Zhang's greatest weapon isn't her network or her money or her fake identities. It's time. Every day we wait is another day she uses to cover her tracks, intimidate witnesses, set up her next con. We need to move now. Nash looked at Morrison. Something passed between them, some unspoken communication Marcus couldn't read. Then Nash said, "What are you proposing?" I go to Montana, scout the cabin, see if she's there. If she is, I call you and you come in with your tactical team. If she's not, we've lost nothing but time. That's insane, Morrison said. You're not trained for surveillance. You're not law enforcement. And if Mei Zhang catches you, she won't. You don't know that. No, but I know this. You send a team of FBI agents in suits driving government vehicles into rural Montana, Mei Zhang will know you're coming before you're within 50 miles of that cabin. You send a biker on a motorcycle, someone who looks like he's just passing through, I might actually get close. Jennifer spoke up. He's right. Mei has contacts everywhere. Police, FBI, local governments. She pays for information. If you start organizing a raid, someone will tip her off. They always do. Nash looks skeptical. And you think she doesn't have eyes on you specifically? She called you, threatened your neighbor. She knows you're involved. Yeah, she does, which is why she won't expect me to come straight at her. Marcus met Nash's stare. Think about it. From her perspective, I'm a random biker who got lucky finding Evelyn. I'm not military, not law enforcement, no special training. She thinks I'm going to hide or rely on you to protect me. She doesn't think I'm a threat. Are you? Morrison asked quietly. Good question. Marcus thought about it. Thought about his sister dying alone because he was too messed up to help. Thought about all the times he'd walked away from fights that weren't his problems, that weren't his responsibility. Thought about Evelyn Brooks buried under trash, left to die forgotten. Yeah, he said finally. I am. They argued for another hour. Nash insisted it was too dangerous. Morrison said it violated protocol. Jennifer warned that Mei Zhang would kill him without hesitation. But in the end, they didn't have a better option. And Marcus wasn't asking for permission. Fine, Nash said finally, but you wear a wire. You check in every 6 hours, and the second you confirm she's there, you back off and let us handle it. Agreed. Agreed. And Marcus Morrison pulled him aside while Nash fitted him with the surveillance equipment. You're not a cop. You're not a hero. You're a witness who got in over his head. So don't try to be something you're not. Just find her and call us. That's it. I know. Do you, because I've seen this before. Regular people who think they can handle dangerous situations because they're angry or motivated or whatever. And you know what happens to them? They get killed. Worse, they get other people killed. So promise me you won't do anything stupid. Marcus thought about Mrs. Castillo, about the rose on her table, About Mei Zhang's voice on the phone, cold and certain, promising death. I promise I'll try not to. It wasn't the answer Morrison wanted, but it was the only honest one Marcus could give. He left at dawn, took nothing but his bike, a backpack with basic supplies, and the wire Nash had taped to his chest. The drive to Montana was 19 hours straight. He didn't stop except for gas and coffee. Didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Because every time he closed his eyes, he saw Evelyn's face. Saw the fear. The betrayal. The knowledge that her own family had thrown her away like garbage. And he thought about Jennifer's testimony. 9 victims she knew about. Probably dozens more. All of them elderly. All of them vulnerable. All of them dying alone while people like Mei Zhang got rich. He crossed into Montana just after midnight. The landscape changed, mountains rising dark against the stars, forests thick and endless. The kind of place where you could disappear and never be found. Perfect for someone like Mei Zhang. The cabin was exactly where Jennifer said it would be. 30 miles outside Kalispell at the end of a dirt road that wound through pine trees and ended at a clearing. Marcus parked his bike 2 miles out, covered it with branches, and walked the rest of the way. The cabin was dark, no lights, no movement. Either Mei Zhang wasn't here or she was sleeping. Marcus circled the perimeter, staying in the tree line, watching. One story, maybe 1,200 square feet. Wood construction, metal roof, generator in back, satellite dish, no other buildings. No vehicles visible. He was about to call Nash when the door opened. Mei Zhang stepped out into the porch, coffee cup in hand. Even from 50 yards away, Marcus could see she was calm, unhurried. She stood there for a full minute, looking at the forest, the mountains, the sky, like she owned the world. Then she looked directly at where Marcus was hiding. "You can come out now," she called. "I know you're there." Marcus froze. She couldn't possibly. "I've had motion sensors around this property since the day I bought it. You triggered 3 of them walking up here." She sipped her coffee. "So either you come out and we talk like adults, or I call the people I pay to handle problems like you. Your choice." Marcus weighed his options. Run and she'd hunt him down. Stay hidden and she'd come find him anyway. Or walk out and face whatever happened next. He stood up, walked out of the trees into the clearing. Mei Zhang smiled. "Marcus Kane, I was wondering when you'd show up." "How'd you know I'd come?" "Because you're predictable, angry, righteous, determined. You think you're protecting Evelyn Brooks. Really, you're just trying to make up for whatever failure haunts you." She studied him. "Let me guess, someone you loved died. You weren't there. And now you're trying to save everyone else to make yourself feel better about not saving them." Marcus said nothing, because she was right and he hated that she was right. "Don't feel bad," Mei Zhang continued. "Most people are predictable. It's what makes them easy to manipulate. Richard thought he was clever protecting his inheritance. Really, he was just a greedy coward. Jennifer thought she was helping people, making end of life easier. Really, she just wanted money without earning it." She walked down the porch steps, moved closer. "And you think you're a hero. Really, you're just a man running from his past." "I'm not running anymore." "No," she laughed. "Then what are you doing? You came all the way to Montana, to my property, without backup, without a plan. You're wearing a wire that I can see through your shirt. You think the FBI is listening, ready to rush in and save you. But they're not coming, Marcus, because I have friends in the Kalispell Sheriff's Department. They'll intercept any federal agents long before they reach this property. So it's just you and me, and you're not leaving." Marcus's hand moved toward his pocket where he'd stashed his phone. Mei Zhang's hand came up with a gun. "Don't," she said quietly. "I'm a very good shot. You're going to kill me. That'll bring the FBI down on you faster than anything else." "Will it? A biker trespasses on private property in Montana, gets shot by a scared homeowner defending herself. That's not murder, Marcus. That's self-defense. And without me, without Jennifer, who they'll never find again, without any evidence except the word of an elderly woman with diminishing credibility, the FBI has nothing. The case falls apart." She was right. Marcus realized with sick certainty that she was absolutely right. He'd walked into a trap thinking he was hunting her, but she'd been hunting him all along. "You could have run," he said, "left the country, disappeared. Why stay?" "Because this is my life's work. Because I've built something here, a network, a system that works. I'm not letting one mistake destroy 15 years of success. Mei Zhang's eyes were cold. Evelyn Brooks should have died in that landfill. You should have driven past. Jennifer should have kept her mouth shut. And Richard should have been stronger. But you all made choices, and now you live with the consequences. Or die with them. Yes, she raised the gun. Goodbye, Marcus. The shot rang out across the clearing, but it wasn't Mei Zhang who fired. She dropped gun falling from her hand, blood spreading from her shoulder. Marcus spun around to see Agent Nash stepping out from the tree-lined weapon, drawn 3 more agents behind her. FBI, don't move. Mei Zhang stared at her shoulder at the blood, like she couldn't believe what had happened. Then she started laughing. Laughing even as Nash kicked the gun away, even as agents swarmed around her, even as they cuffed her hands behind her back. You think this changes anything, she said to Nash. You think you've won. I have lawyers, money, connections. I'll be out in 6 months. No, Nash said, you won't, because Jennifer Walsh is testifying against you, because we have evidence from 17 facilities across 3 states, because we found the offshore accounts, the fake identities, the documentation of every victim. She leaned in close. You're done, May, and you're going to die in prison. The laughter stopped. Marcus stood there shaking, trying to process what had just happened. You were here the whole time. We followed you from the safe house, Morrison said, appearing from the trees. Knew you'd go off half-cocked, figured we'd use you as bait while we set up the perimeter. You used me. We protected you, Nash corrected. Mei Zhang was right about one thing: she has contacts in local law enforcement. We couldn't coordinate through normal channels without tipping her off, but following a lone biker on a motorcycle that we could do quietly. Marcus looked at Mei Zhang, now being led toward a waiting vehicle. She met his eyes one last time. No anger now, no confidence, just the hollow realization that she'd finally lost. How many, Marcus asked Nash, how many victims did she really kill? Nash hesitated. We're still counting, but based on Jennifer's testimony and our investigation, we're looking at 43 confirmed deaths. Maybe 60 or more when we finish digging. 60 people. 60 elderly victims who died alone, scared stolen from. And for what money that Mei Zhang would never even spend. Power she'd eventually lose. A legacy of nothing but pain. What about the other scouts? Marcus asked. The other nurses working for her. We're tracking them down now. Jennifer gave us names, descriptions, last known locations. It'll take time, but we'll find them. Nash looked at Marcus. You did good. Reckless, stupid, but good. I almost got killed. Yeah, you did. Don't do it again. They flew back to Kalispell that night. By morning, Marcus was on a plane to home. By afternoon, he was walking into Evelyn Brooks's hospital room. She was sitting up, color returning to her face. When she saw him, she smiled. You're alive. So are you. They told me about Montana, about Mei Zhang. Evelyn's smile faded. They also told me about the others. All those people. I keep thinking if you hadn't found me, I'd just be another number. Another forgotten victim. But you're not. You're here, you're alive. And because of you, Mei Zhang's going to prison for the rest of her life. Because of you. Evelyn corrected. You're the one who wouldn't let go, who kept digging even when it got dangerous. Marcus sat down in the chair beside her bed. I had to. I spent too much of my life walking away from things that mattered. I wasn't going to do it again. Your sister, Evelyn said softly. You told me about her. Yeah, she'd be proud of you. Maybe, I don't know. Marcus looked out the window. All I know is I'm tired of people disappearing because nobody's paying attention. Tired of the vulnerable being targeted because they're easy prey. Something's got to change. Then let's change it. He looked at her. What? I'm 80 years old, Marcus. I have $8 million I don't need and no family to leave it to, except maybe you. She smiled at his shock. I'm going to start a foundation for elder protection, legal advocacy, financial oversight, support for families, and I want you to help me run it. I don't have any experience with that kind of. You have the only experience that matters. You give a damn. That's more than most people. Evelyn reached out, took his hand. Please, help me make sure this never happens to anyone else. Marcus thought about it. Thought about Mrs. Castillo and her rose, about Ruth Chen and Helen Martinez and James Patterson, and all the others whose names he didn't know. About his sister dying alone while he was too far gone to care. "Yeah," he said finally. "Yeah, I'll help." The trial took 8 months to put together. 8 months of depositions, evidence gathering, witness interviews. 8 months of watching Mahjong sit in a courtroom looking bored while prosecutors laid out the details of 63 confirmed murders. Marcus attended every day, sat in the back row, watched the families of victims cry when they heard how their loved ones died. Watched Jennifer Walsh testify for 6 days straight, her voice breaking as she described each person she'd helped destroy. Watched Nash present bank records, emails, recordings, a mountain of evidence, so overwhelming that Mahjong's high-priced lawyers couldn't spin their way out of it. On day 47 of the trial, the prosecution called Evelyn Brooks to the stand. She walked slowly still using a cane from her injuries, but her back was straight and her voice was clear. The prosecutor asked her to describe what happened the night Richard took her. "He came to my room at Sunrise Manor around 10 p.m., Evelyn said. "Told me there was a family emergency, that Thomas had been in an accident, and I needed to come to the hospital immediately. I was confused. My medications make me foggy sometimes, but I trusted him. He was my nephew." Family. What happened next? "He helped me into his car. I remember the drive felt wrong. We weren't going toward the hospital. I asked where we were going and he wouldn't answer. Then another car pulled up beside us. A woman got out. I'd never seen her before, but Richard clearly knew her. He called her Mandy." The prosecutor showed Evelyn a photo. "Is this the woman?" Evelyn looked at Mahjong. Their eyes met, and for the first time since the trial started, Mahjong's mask slipped. Just for a second, but Marcus saw it. Fear. "Yes," Evelyn said, "that's her." "What did she do?" "She got in the back seat with me, told Richard to drive. I tried to ask what was happening, but she put something over my face. A cloth. It smelled sweet, chemical, and then everything went dark." Evelyn's hands trembled. "When I woke up, I was in a trunk. I could hear voices. Richard saying he couldn't do this. The woman May telling him it was too late to back out now. That I'd already changed my will, and if I lived, I'd testify against him for embezzlement." "Did you hear anything else?" "Yes. Richard asked what they should do with me. And May said," Evelyn's voice caught. "She said dump me somewhere. The morning crew won't find me till Monday. Let the problem solve itself." The courtroom was silent. The next thing I remember, I was in the landfill, cold, surrounded by garbage. I tried to call for help, but my voice was so weak. I thought I was going to die there. Alone, forgotten. Evelyn looked at Marcus. But then someone came. Someone who didn't have to stop. Who didn't owe me anything. Someone who gave a damn when it mattered most. The defense attorney tried to break her on cross-examination. Suggested her memory was unreliable. Her medications made her confused. She couldn't be sure it was Mahjong in the car. But Evelyn didn't waver, didn't crack. She looked that lawyer dead in the eye and said, "I know what happened to me. I know who did it. And I know the only reason I'm alive is because she failed." The jury deliberated for 3 hours, came back with guilty verdicts on all 63 counts of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced Mahjong to life in prison without possibility of parole. When the bailiff led her away, she looked back one last time. Not at her lawyers, not at the families, at Marcus. "You think this changes anything?" she said. Same words she'd used in Montana. But this time they sounded hollow, desperate. "Yeah," Marcus said, "it changes everything." After the trial, the real work began. The Evelyn Brooks Foundation for Elder Protection and Advocacy opened its doors 6 weeks later in a renovated office space downtown. Marcus stood in the lobby on the opening day looking at the mission statement on the wall, still not quite believing this was real. "Stop second-guessing yourself," Evelyn said, walking up beside him. She'd recovered well physical therapy, helping her regain strength. "We're doing something important here. I'm not qualified for this. I'm a biker who barely finished high school. You're a man who saved my life and brought down a serial killer. That's more qualification than most people have." She squeezed his arm. "Besides, you're not doing this alone. We have a team." The team consisted of 3 lawyers, 2 social workers, a financial advisor, and Mrs. Castillo, who'd insisted on volunteering as the receptionist. "Someone needs to make sure you boys don't screw this up," she'd said with a smile. Their first client walked in on day 2, A daughter named Sarah, whose 85-year-old father had been declared missing from his assisted living facility 3 months ago. The police said he'd probably wandered off. The facility said they'd done everything they could. The family said they knew something was wrong but couldn't prove it. Marcus listened to Sarah's story, heard the frustration, the grief, the anger at a system that didn't care enough to look deeper. And he thought about Ruth Chen, about Helen Martinez, about all the people who disappeared because nobody paid attention. "We'll look into it," he told Sarah, "and we won't stop until we find the truth." It took them 2 weeks to uncover what the police had missed in 3 months. Sarah's father, William, had withdrawn $20,000 3 days before he disappeared. The facility had no record of it, but the bank did, and the signature on the withdrawal slip didn't match William's handwriting. They brought the evidence to Morrison, who was now working as a consultant for the foundation. He took it to the DA, warrants were issued. Within a month, they'd arrested 2 staff members at the facility who'd been running a smaller-scale version of Mei Jiang's operation. William's body was never found, but his killers were in prison, and Sarah finally had answers. "Thank you," she said to Marcus when it was over. "Thank you for not giving up on him." That became the pattern. People would come to the foundation with stories of missing elderly relatives, suspicious financial activity, unexplained deaths. The lawyers would investigate. The social workers would provide support. And Marcus would do what he did best, refuse to walk away until they found the truth. By the end of the first year, they'd helped recover $8 million in stolen assets, gotten 14 people arrested, found 3 missing seniors alive and brought them home, changed laws in 2 states requiring better oversight of elder care facilities. But the work that mattered most to Marcus happened on Tuesday afternoons. That's when he'd visit Sunrise Manor now under new management after the old administration was fired. He'd sit in the common room and play cards with the residents, listen to their stories, check in on them, make sure they knew someone gave a damn. One Tuesday, a woman named Dorothy asked him why he kept coming back. "You don't work here. You're not family. Why do you care? Why do you—" Marcus thought about his sister, about Evelyn, about all the times he'd walk past people who needed help because it wasn't his problem. "Because I used to not care, and people died because of it. I'm not making that mistake again." Dorothy studied him. "You're trying to make up for something, aren't you?" "Yeah, I am." "Is it working?" "Some days, others, I'm not sure I'll ever make up for it, but I keep trying." She patted his hand. "That's more than most people do." Thomas Brooks came by the foundation office one afternoon 6 months later with an envelope. "Evelyn wanted me to give you this." Marcus opened it. Inside was a check for $2 million and a note. "For the foundation, so it can keep going long after I'm gone. Because some things are more important than inheritance or legacy. Some things are about making sure nobody else gets thrown away." He called Evelyn immediately. "I can't accept this." "You can and you will." "Marcus, I'm 81 years old. I've lived a good life, a long life. But none of it mattered as much as the moment you stopped in that landfill. That moment when someone I'd never met decided I was worth saving, that changed everything." Her voice was firm. "So take the money, use it, save more people. That's how you honor what happened to me." The foundation expanded. They hired more staff, opened offices in 3 other cities, partnered with law enforcement agencies across the country, created a hotline for reporting elder abuse, launched a training program for facility staff on recognizing financial exploitation. And Marcus discovered something surprising. He was good at this, not the legal stuff or the financial analysis or the policy work, but the human part, the sitting with scared families and telling them someone would fight for their loved ones, the visiting isolated seniors and making them feel seen, the refusing to give up when everyone else said it was hopeless. Morrison pulled him aside after a particularly difficult case. "You know what you've become, Kane. What? The kind of person who shows up, who stays, who gives a damn when it's hard and complicated and doesn't come with glory or recognition." Morrison smiled. "You've become the person you needed when your sister was dying." Marcus felt those words hit like a punch, because Morrison was right. He couldn't save his sister. Couldn't go back and answer her phone call or show up when she needed him, but he could show up for others. He could be the person who didn't walk away. 2 years after the trial, Nash called him with news. "We found the last of Mei Jiang's scouts, a nurse in Phoenix. She was working with an accountant to target residents at a memory care facility. We got them both. That's all of them, Marcus. The entire network is shut down. How many victims total? Nash was quiet for a moment. 87 confirmed. Another 23 suspected, but we can't prove it. Over 100 families destroyed by this operation. Marcus closed his eyes. 100 people. 100 Evelyns who didn't get saved. At least it's over. Because of you. You know that, right? If you'd driven past that landfill, Mei Jiang would still be operating. Still killing. You saved more lives than you'll ever know. After she hung up, Marcus sat in his office at the foundation. On the wall was a photo from opening day. Evelyn Thomas, Mrs. Castillo Morrison Nash, and Marcus standing in front of the sign. All of them smiling. All of them part of something that mattered. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. Marcus Kane, a woman's voice. Young, scared. Yeah, this is Marcus. My name is Jennifer. Not that Jennifer a different one. I'm a nurse at Silver Pines Memory Care in Atlanta. And I think something's happening here. Something bad. Residents are disappearing. Money's going missing. Nobody's investigating. I don't know what to do. Marcus grabbed a pen. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. And Jennifer. He looked at the photo on his wall, at Evelyn's smile. You did the right thing calling. Someone's going to listen. Someone's going to help. I promise you that. 3 years after that night in the landfill, Marcus stood at a podium in front of 200 people. The foundation was hosting its annual fundraiser, and he'd been asked to speak. He hated public speaking, hated being the center of attention. But Evelyn had insisted. I'm not good at speeches, he started. I'm better at listening, at showing up, at doing the small things that matter. But Evelyn asked me to tell you why this foundation exists. So here it is. He told them about driving past the landfill, about the smell, about the voice calling for help, about almost keeping going because it wasn't his problem, wasn't his responsibility, wasn't his fight. But I stopped. And when I saw Evelyn Brooks, 80 years old, thrown away like trash, left to die alone, I realized something. Evil doesn't just happen because bad people do bad things. It happens because good people decide not to pay attention, because we walk past, because we assume someone else will help, because we tell ourselves it's not our problem. The room was silent. Evelyn was someone's aunt, someone's sister, someone who mattered. But to the people who threw her in that landfill, she was just an obstacle, an inconvenience, disposable. And that's what happens when we stop seeing elderly people as human beings with value and start seeing them as problems to solve or assets to exploit. He looked at Evelyn sitting in the front row. She was crying, smiling and crying. This foundation exists because one person decided to pay attention, to stop, to give a damn. And because of that one decision, 87 other families got justice. 14 criminals went to prison. 3 missing people came home alive. Laws changed. Lives were saved. Marcus gripped the podium. But here's what I learned. It's not about being a hero. It's not about being brave or strong or special. It's about showing up, about refusing to walk away when someone needs help, about being the person who pays attention when everyone else is too busy or too tired or too convinced it's not their problem. He paused, took a breath. My sister died 7 years ago, alone, scared, calling for help that never came. I wasn't there. I was 3 states away, too messed up in my own problems to care. And I've lived with that guilt every single day since. But I can't change the past. And all I can do is make sure other people's sisters and mothers and grandmothers don't die alone because nobody showed up. The applause started before he finished, but Marcus wasn't done. So here's what I'm asking you. Don't wait for a crisis. Don't wait until someone's dying or missing or being exploited. Check on the elderly people in your life. Call them. Visit them. Pay attention to their finances, their care, their safety. And if you see something wrong, if your gut tells you something's off, don't walk away. Don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the someone, because people don't disappear when nobody cares. They disappear when nobody pays attention in time. He stepped away from the podium. The crowd stood, and Marcus realized something that changed everything. He'd spent his whole life running from responsibility, from connection, from caring too much. And in running, he'd lost the people who mattered most. but standing still showing up. That's what saved him. Evelyn found him after the event, grabbed his hands. That was perfect. I'm still not sure any of this is real, that I'm actually doing something good instead of just trying to make up for failing my sister. Marcus listened to me. Evelyn's grip tightened. You can do something to make up for the past and do something good at the same time. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Your sister would want you to help others. She'd be proud of what you've become. I wish I could believe that. Then believe this. You saved my life. You brought down a serial killer. You started a movement that's protecting vulnerable people across the country. You are not the man who failed his sister anymore. You're the man who showed up for me, for Mrs. Castillo, for Sarah's father, for 100 others. That's who you are now. Marcus pulled her into a hug. This woman he'd found buried in garbage. This woman who'd decided to turn her trauma into purpose. This woman who'd given him a second chance he didn't deserve but desperately needed. Thank you, he whispered, for asking me to stay, for trusting me, for showing me what matters. Thank you for stopping, she whispered back, for not driving past, for being the one who gave a damn. 5 years after that night, Marcus got a call from Morrison. You need to turn on the news. He did, and saw the headline, Congress passes Elder Protection Act requires federal oversight of senior care facilities. The reporter was interviewing a senator who'd sponsored the bill. This legislation was inspired by the Evelyn Brooks case and the advocacy work of the Evelyn Brooks Foundation. Too many seniors are being exploited, abused, and killed because we've failed to protect them. That ends now. Marcus's phone exploded with texts. Congratulations. Well done, you changed the world. But the message that mattered most came from Evelyn. We did it. We actually changed things. People will be safer now because you didn't drive past. He sat there staring at that message and thought about the man he used to be. The man who kept his head down, who minded his own business, who walked away from anything that wasn't his problem. That man was gone. Died in a landfill 5 years ago the moment he heard a voice calling for help and decided to listen. The foundation kept growing. By year 7, they had offices in 12 cities, a staff of 43, and a track record of helping over 2,000 families. They'd recovered $73 million in stolen assets, gotten 119 people arrested, found 27 missing seniors alive, changed laws in 14 states. But the number that mattered most to Marcus was different. 0. That's how many people had gone missing from facilities they were monitoring. 0 people thrown away. 0 people forgotten. 0 people dying alone because nobody paid attention. Evelyn passed away in her sleep at 88, surrounded by family and friends. Natural causes, peaceful, dignified, exactly how she'd wanted to go. At her funeral, Marcus stood at the podium again and told the truth. Evelyn Brooks taught me that being thrown away doesn't define you. How you respond to being thrown away, that's what matters. She could have spent her last years angry, bitter, afraid. Instead, she turned her trauma into purpose. She built something that would protect others long after she was gone. She showed me that one person paying attention can change everything. He looked at the casket, at the photo of Evelyn smiling holding the foundation's ribbon-cutting scissors. I almost drove past that landfill, almost kept going, almost let her die alone in the dark. But I stopped. And that decision, that one moment of choosing to give a damn, it didn't just save her life. It saved mine too. Thomas approached him after the service. She left you something, in her will. Marcus shook his head. I don't need, it's not money, it's a letter. Thomas handed him an envelope. She wrote it 6 months ago, said to give it to you when she was gone. Marcus opened it that night, sitting alone in his apartment. The same apartment where Mei Zhang had threatened Mrs. Castillo. The same place he'd packed a bag to chase a serial killer to Montana. The same walls that had witnessed his transformation from a man running from his past to a man running toward purpose. The letter was short, Evelyn's handwriting shaky but clear. Marcus, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. And that's okay. I've lived longer than I expected, especially after that night in the landfill. Every day since then has been a gift. But I need you to know something. You didn't save me because you're a hero. You saved me because you're human. Because somewhere deep down beneath all the walls you'd built and all the running you'd done, you were still capable of caring. And that basic human decency, that's what changed everything. Don't lose that. Don't ever become the person who drives past, because the world needs people who stop, who listen, who give a damn. The world needs you. With love, always, Evelyn. Marcus folded the letter carefully, put it in his wallet, carried it with him every single day after that. 10 years after finding Evelyn Brooks in a landfill, Marcus Kane stood in the foundation's lobby and looked at the memorial wall. 217 photos. 217 people they'd helped. 217 lives saved because someone decided to pay attention. A young woman approached him, nervous, scared. "Are you Marcus Kane?" "Yeah. I'm Angela. My grandmother's been missing for 3 weeks. The police say she probably just moved away. The facility says they don't know what happened. But I know something's wrong. I know someone hurt her. And everyone keeps telling me to let it go. That she's old, that these things happen, that I need to accept it." Angela's voice broke. "But I can't. I can't just give up on her." Marcus looked at this young woman fighting for her grandmother, refusing to walk away, refusing to accept that some people don't matter enough to save. And he saw himself, saw Evelyn, saw everyone who'd ever been told their loved one wasn't worth the effort. "You're right not to give up," he said, "and you're not alone anymore. Tell me everything. We'll find her, or we'll find out what happened. But either way, you'll have answers. I promise you that." Because that's what he did now. That's who he'd become. Not a hero, not a savior, just a man who stopped when everyone else kept driving. A man who listened when everyone else turned away. A man who gave a damn when it mattered most. People don't disappear because nobody cares. They disappear because nobody pays attention in time. And Marcus Kane had learned the hard way that showing up early makes all the difference between saving a life and mourning one.